Hello and welcome to Absolute Trust Talk. This is our Facebook Live version of our podcast here at Absolute Trust Counsel, and I'm Kirsten Howe. I'm the host of Absolute Trust Talk, and today I'm going to be talking about estate planning challenges that are presented by real estate. A few weeks ago, our associate attorney Madison Gunn and I were talking about some of the most common problems our clients bump up against when they are administering a trust, when they are acting as a trustee of a trust after the person who created the trust has died. We called those trust fails, and we talked about what you need to do or what you need to pay attention to make sure that those particular problems don't happen to your family. And today we're going to focus again, helping you avoid these trust fails. We're going to focus on some problems that we see relating specifically to real estate. So many of our clients write estate plans that, very generally will divide the entire estate equally among their children. Sometimes this presents a challenge in the after death administration for a variety of reasons, and we're going to talk about that today. One of the new challenges that we face is Prop 19, everybody's favorite. So we will be talking about that a little bit. Okay, but before I unleash Madison and let her start talking, I got to get a little housekeeping out of the way. First of all, we are recording it, as you know. If you want to watch it again, you can do so. It'll be on our website in a few days. It's also on our YouTube channel. Just give us a few days. If you and you can tell a friend about it so they can find it there. It's also going to be a podcast, which is a purely audio episode, and that also will be on our website, absolutetrustcounsel.com, and it'll be on your phone or wherever it is that you're used to getting podcasts. Second thing is, at the end, we are going to take audience questions. So if you are watching us live on Facebook today, go ahead and type in a question into the comment area there on Facebook, and I will see it, and Madison and I will try to answer it. No promises. Okay, so as I said, my guest, it's hard to call her my guest. my co-presenter here today, our associate attorney, Madison Gunn, who, if you've been paying attention, you know who she is. And we are going to start out talking about these, the most common asset that causes headaches amongst our beneficiaries, which is the residence. We're going to focus on the residence to start with. So let's say, the situation is we have 3 children, maybe a little bit of cash, maybe a little bit of securities, but not a lot. The main thing is there's a residence and parents have died. One of the first things that we now have to pay attention to is Prop 19. So Madison, what are some of the issues there?
Sure. Thank you, Kirsten. So the big thing, just as a little quick explanation, is that prior to February 15th, we were under Prop 58, which is the original parent-child exclusion that we had, which meant that if a parent passes away or gifts property to their children, it's excluded from the primary residence, and up to $1 million of additional real property was excluded from reassessment of property taxes. That went away, and now any transfers that happen after February 15th, the primary residence is allowed to be transferred as long as it was the primary residence of the parent and is going to be the primary resident of at least one child. And that you get the assessed value plus $1 million. So they kind of like shrunk it all into one property and have these residency requirements. If you leave the property to your children and they live there for a year and then they move out, you lose that exemption and it gets reassessed. So it's not like if I move in for 6 months and get residency and move out, I can rent it. It doesn't work that way. It's only allowed if it's your primary residence.
As long as it's your primary residence.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. And that's very, very, very different from how it used to be. We used to be able to protect rental properties, from reassessment, but now it's just the
Right.
primary residence, and one of the kids has to make it their primary residence, and they have to be the owner.
Right. And it makes it difficult because, if people are planning and they just leave it, like if it was the 3 kids with a little bit of cash in the primary residence, and they just say, I leave everything equally to my 3 children, then that can be a problem if one of them wants to keep the house. It can be a problem in the sense that if there's not enough cash to offset, there's a whole other issue in regards to how that works. And I think, well, we can hit that now. It works. It's all kind of flows together. If somebody wants to keep that residence and keep the property tax exemption or keep the property taxes low, they can't buy the siblings out. If you have a sibling to sibling transfer, it's not protected.
Right. And so this part of it isn't necessarily new with Prop 19. This has always been the case. If the estate plan says, I leave everything equally to my 3 children, and all there is a house, if one of the kids wants to keep the house in order to keep the property taxes where they are, we got to do some fancy, finagling financially. It can be done. Madison, you want to talk about generally how that works?
Yeah. In order for it to be done, instead of buying your siblings out personally and handling, writing a check to the trust and doing all of that, in order to keep it from being a sibling to sibling transfer, it all has to be done within the confines of the irrevocable trust, because it becomes irrevocable upon the trustor's death. So you would have to get what we call a bridge loan. They're typically private hard money loans. It's not a mortgage. That just is the trust taking a loan out in order to offset the distribution of the house with cash to other beneficiaries. And then once all the distributions are done and the trust administration is sewn up, then the beneficiary that takes the house will then mortgage the house to pay off that bridge loan.
Right. So the important point is that the borrowing is done by the trustee. Mm-hmm. The trustee borrows money, and now there's, a lien on the house, but the trustee now has a bunch of cash. So the trustee can make everybody equal. And then the one who wants the house gets the house with a lien on it, which they've got to get rid of by refinancing. Yeah. So it sounds a little complicated, but people do it all the time. We have had lots of clients who do it. It's a very workable solution. And now we have layered on top of it Prop 19. Yeah. So that's an interesting thing. I guess another issue that we have encountered in this context of, parents have died and there's a house, is sometimes when the parents have died, turns out one of the siblings is actually living in that house. And that complicates things in a few different ways. You want to start us off talking about that?
Sure. Yeah, so that's always a big issue. It depends on the family harmony, and sometimes that just changes halfway through. So we have to be cognizant of that. But typically, that child that's living there is probably taking care of those parents before they pass away. So they may not be paying rent. They may not be, there was probably not some sort of written agreement. We're always going to say, if anybody asks me or Kirsten, we're always going to say, get it in writing. It's just makes our job easier. But, we don't like to go to court over things like that. But you would want to make sure that if you want your child to be able to keep living in that house, or during the trust, at least just for the trust administration, or for a minimum period of time, or you want to make sure the trustee gives them a 6-month notice to move out, whatever the case may be, you want to make sure that's in your trust. That's a big big thing that people don't necessarily put in there because they feel like maybe they're treating one child differently over the others. And usually it's because it's the child that doesn't have their own home,
Right.
which I don't think their siblings would begrudge them, but it has to be somewhere in writing so that they have instructions to follow.
Right. And this, what we've just said, is not limited to a situation where the child is living in the house. It could be a new spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend or, whoever it is,
Right.
some kind of partner. If somebody's living in your house and that's where they live and then you die and the trust doesn't tell us what's supposed to happen, what has to happen is the trustee has to get that person paying rent or get out. And if that's not how you want that person to be treated, you've got to address that. You've got to call your attorney and, have a conversation. What do we need to do here? Even if you want the person to move out, you don't want them, you want to give them some time. They're living there for a reason. So you got to build that into the document.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess another thing to think about is if you want to leave the property to a particular child, can that child afford the property? Just because they live there now, or whether or not they live there now, and even if you can keep the property taxes low, there's more. I'm a homeowner, I know.
And we both own really old houses. So
yeah.
If you've lived in a house for 50 years and you haven't done any major upkeep to it, if your stove's still avocado green and you need a roof, are they going to be able to afford the $25,000 expense of doing that?
Right.
As a homeowner, on top of whatever, all the other normal stuff.
Right. So, a big part of this, I guess, is you've got to think about these things ahead of time. Talk to your attorney. And in particular, if you have real estate, if you own real estate, Prop 19 just happened in February. And it affects every single person in California who owns real estate. You just need to know that. So pick up the phone, call your attorney, have a conversation. They might say, "Oh, you're fine. Don't worry about it." But, get that answer. And the other thing is, if I think having a conversation with your children is, what do you think about that, Madison?
Yeah, I think if you know right off the bat that none of the kids want this house, that solves a lot of your problems.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah. But if you know that the one child that doesn't own property wants to be able to own property and have that house, it would behoove you to speak with your attorney to get that situated, because there might be a reason why they don't own a home now. And it could be a multitude of factors. And that, the bridge loans we talked about, they still have to get a traditional mortgage to clear that bridge loan off the house and have and even if they have a ton of equity, they still have to have the credit worthiness to be able to obtain a mortgage. And that's tight. That's hard to get right now. So it would be beneficial to have that conversation with them, because yes, you can leave everything equally and let them work it out and let that sibling tell theirs, that they want to buy them out and all of that, but can they do it?
Right. Yeah. We still have to have some source of income to qualify for a mortgage, and a sufficient source. So all of those things are things that always better to figure it out ahead of time than to just, hope for the best. Talk to your kids, talk to your attorney. What's going to happen if I die with everything the way it's written right now? Prop 19 really did, change things for a lot of people, and you just need to know. You just need to know. Okay, so I've got a few questions here. Let's see. What about a vacation home? Will that be reassessed if the children decide to keep it?
Yes. So if it's not your primary residence, it's a vacation home. It doesn't matter if one of your children makes it a primary residence. It wasn't yours. They have to match. So it has to be your primary residence and your child's primary residence in order to get that exclusion. So if it's your Lake Tahoe cabin that everyone takes turns going to, and was never anyone's primary residence, it's going to be reassessed at fair market value.
Right. And so, depending on how long ago you bought it, that could be a really big hike.
Right. And those kids may or may not be able to afford to keep the house if the property taxes are now $25,000 a year.
Right. Yeah. So we're talking about Prop 19. It's not, it's very important, very, very important to pay attention to it if there's other real estate besides the primary residence, because that is getting reassessed and you need to sort through that. Okay. So is there a way to get around Prop 19? That is a great question.
So there is a way to get around Prop 19, but that's only if you haven't purchased the property yet.
Right.
It doesn't apply to any new property or to any existing property. It only applies to new property. Right.
So yeah, if you are thinking about buying some new property, a new vacation home, a new rental property, definitely talk to your attorney before you do it.
Yes. Yes. Because you have to buy it in a correct. Essentially you use an LLC and you have to use the name of the LLC. You can't put it in your name and then transfer it to the LLC. It won't work like that.
Yeah. That's what we did in the old days before February, but that doesn't work anymore. So that's the big learning here is if you're going to buy new California real estate, please talk to your attorney first. Just have that conversation. Okay. And I got to know, okay. Somebody wants to know, will Prop 19 be repealed?
Well,
I get that question all the time. Don't you think they're going to repeal it?
There are two bills in the state assembly and legislature. One that could just extend the deadline for Prop 19. So instead of going into effect February 15th, 2021, it would go into effect, I think, February 15th, 2023, something like that. It just gives an extra couple of years. If that passes, we're not even sure how that would work in terms of the gap between February 15th, 2021 and the date that the rule is enacted. And then there's another piece of legislation that's proposed and in the House talking about making the original language Prop 58 for the parent-child exclusion, which is the primary residence plus $1 million assessed property, making that a part of the California Constitution. So that would roll back this section of Prop 19.
Yeah,
it would still allow the rest of Prop 19, which is how they marketed it to get voted, which was the transferring your property tax base up to 3 times over 55. And if you're a natural disaster victim and all of that, that would all still be, it would essentially bifurcate Prop 19 so that the property taxes for parent-child exclusion, that part would go away and go back to the original.
So we could keep the good part of Prop 19 and get rid of the bad part.
Right. So that's all working its way through the state assembly and legislature. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Okay. Yeah. If that happens, I'm sure we will do an episode about that.
And I'm sure if it's the one that makes it a part of the Constitution, I'm guessing we have to vote on that. So,
you'll know about it because it'll be on the ballot. Okay. Very good. I think that's all the questions that we have. So thanks, Madison. And I'm going to let Madison get back to work because, I'm her boss. She needs to get to work.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Talk to you later. All right. Now, thank you all so much for listening today. I really appreciate you being here, and as does Madison. And I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you learned something that's useful to you. If you like our podcast, be sure to go on iTunes and subscribe. You can find it there by typing in Absolute Trust Talk, or you can type in my name. It'll come up in the search bar. If you like it or subscribe to it, that helps us with our online visibility, and that's always good for Absolute Trust Counsel. And beside searching for us on iTunes or those kinds of places, you can go to our website, absolutetrustcounsel.com, and there, all of our episodes are there. We've got blogs, we've got articles, we've got all kinds of newsletters, everything that you can think of. It's there. There's lots of resources there. So go look around there and see if there's something that's useful to you. And please make sure to catch our next episode, which will be in a couple of weeks. I know you'll get a lot out of that one, and I look forward to connecting with you next time.